dust is in my eyes, my blood is on the ground. Quiet little chuckle and the shuffling of the boots of the coward that shot me down. He turns toward the sunrise and I hear him softly say, I guess you've met your macho man, as the colors fade to gray.
Howdy, partners. Dust and Blood is a rabble-rousing, rootin'-tootin', bronco-bustin' podcast not suitable for the ears of youngins. Take a gander at the content warnings and listen with care.
Welcome to Dust and Blood, a narrative play podcast set in the wild, weird fantasy west. I'm Blake, your GM, and our players are Keith Curtis as Jasper Graves, Corinne Hill as Myra Sting, Zach Parker as Moz Copernicus Pryor, and Gail Parker as Bonesaw.
Hello and welcome to Dust and Blood, the Roundup. This is our second roundup. It's for episodes 4 through 7, and there will be spoilers for the story thus far, so if you don't want to get spoiled, go listen to those episodes first. Gather round the campfire and grab some grub from the chuck wagon. Hey, Blake, what are we eating tonight?
Well, Cookie's improved. He actually brought in a bunch of Frisbee Pies from Connecticut.
Is that a real thing? What is that?
Yeah, so Frisbee Pies are pies made in Connecticut, originally started in, I think, like 1871, and they were one of the first, like, real pie tins that came in a metal pie tin. And
oh, really?
Yeah, and then it wasn't until the 1900s that some toy companies picked it up and were like, oh, hey, this is, let's create a flying disc. And then all of the workers and people who had eaten a Frisbee pie were like, yeah, we do that with these pie tins. And we're like...
And that's how kids started playing pie.
Exactly.
Wow. Amazing story.
Yep.
For kids.
So we have our full cast here tonight. Zach, Corinne, Keith, myself, Gail, and Blake, our GM. And we're going to answer some group questions and then dive right in.
Yeah, do we want to do a quick recap of the 4 episodes that we're going over?
No, because I didn't prepare one.
Well, okay, fine. This is where you guys fought the Bone Jangles gang. This is where you fought Helen Blackburn and her ilk, and finally managed to get...
We got Carter to perdition, and then seemed like the whole town to get him out on the train.
Which you successfully did, and somehow managed to walk the narrowest fucking line between pissing everybody off and making everybody your enemy, and eking out with exactly what you need to survive.
Yeah, it was close. It was very close.
Are we going to be mentioning the bank job?
Yes. As of right now, because you just brought it up.
Yes. Check out our bonus content episode, The Bank Job, which will probably come up also. It's a standalone one-off that we did in the same universe, but does not have, as of yet, ties to the main plot.
As of yet. Well, why don't we start with this question from Rain? Thank you, Rain. Something that I don't think we've actually talked about in these roundups yet. What are all of your characters' classes? And what are they good at? What kind of stuff do they do?
Honestly, what is Bonesaw? I honestly don't know. I just know that he makes potions and there's all sorts of cool shit going on with him. I legitimately don't know what Bonesaw's class is.
I wouldn't be surprised if Bonesaw was their own class at this point.
I have sold you short if I have not explained Bonesaw's class. So Bonesaw's base class is an alchemist.
Okay.
But I have also gone into a specific archetype, and I'm building towards a prestige class, which are things you can do in Pathfinder. So I believe my archetype is called Rage Chemist. And my
That's cool.
prestige class is going to be Master Chemist. And essentially, the Alchemist class is very versatile. You can play lots of different kinds of alchemists. But with Bonesaw, I decided to lean into one of the alchemist features, which is called a mutagen. And basically, when you drink it, it enhances some of your base stats at the cost of others. So when Bonesaw drinks his mutagen, he becomes very, very strong, but much less intelligent. And what Rage Chemist does is it stacks those benefits and losses even more. And then I think I'm pretty sure it's Master Chemist that actually so you have
Oh.
Well,
You need to put in a bleep
we'll
right there,
explore some
Gail.
things later, but
You
Might
need
have
to
slipped
just,
there.
it needs to be just, the Master Chemist does beep!
No,
and then-
actually, 100%. Then it'll pique their interest and they'll be like, wait, what?
okay,
Exactly.
yeah. I'll have to bleep that bit. But yeah, so essentially, Bonesaw can make elixirs, which function like potions and are the alchemist's way of casting spells. He also has access to bombs and his mutagen, and those are sort of his base class features. Very versatile, which I like in a character. It can go a lot of different ways. But what is Myra?
She's a old garden variety gunslinger. I was thinking of doing either a ranger class, but I think we were kind of talking about what classes we should do to kind of balance each other out and not like double over. And so gunslinger just seemed like the perfect class for a western.
Yeah. For those less familiar with the Pathfinder 1E system, what is the gunslinger good at?
They have something called grit, which is an amount of points that they have that they can spend to do really cool trick shots. And Myra's done a few of them in the episodes where you can target a body part on a person and it will have an extra effect. So she can make people drop their weapon. She can make them confused. I think she hit someone in the head.
Startling shot.
Startling shot, I think, was the first one she did, where she made Carter be flat-footed. Mm-hmm. It's basically anything that you could possibly do with a gun is what Myra can do. So as of right now, most of what she does is just the targeting areas of the body and startling shots. But in general, the class is built so that I can use a gun without the normal issues that any other class would have using a ranged weapon. So, and I'm not too articulate in describing it, but basically that she's real good with guns is the sum of
Very
it.
cool.
Awesome.
What about Moz?
Moz is a bard as their base class, but I believe that I specialized into, I think the subclass is called Fire Dancer. But bards in Pathfinder, they're support characters. Their special thing is they can do a bardic performance, which works a little differently than 5th edition, which I'm familiar with. But essentially, I can choose a variety of different buffs that I can give the team as long as they remain close to me. And Fire Dancer gave me a couple different benefits. It gave me access to spells like Fireball, which most bards don't get access to. That one's pretty fun. But there's a bunch of other benefits, like there's fire resistance. That's something I can put in there. And there's just a lot of things that I used a lot of spells that I found that just looked like they would be interesting to add. But yeah, so Moz is pretty interesting. Not a character that I typically play, but one that I am enjoying quite a lot. So Keith, could you describe Jasper?
Yeah, well, Jasper is first and foremost and pretty much entirely a ranger.
I can't remember in the build if I assume I'm a subclass of Beastmaster, but I'm not sure. Like Zach, this is not my first system, or rather my main system of choice. So I understand what I'm doing most of the time, but a lot of the times, especially in the very early episodes, I'll say what I want to do and depend on the game master to say, okay, use that skill. Got it. Okay, we're good. But yeah, I'd say if you had to classify what Jasper can do, he's really good with nature. He is really good at spotting things and figuring out things from the environment around him. He does have some magic. Some of the things I did with magic were to, and they don't really come out so much in play because they're kind of behind the scenes magic. I frequently do not have as many spells as I should because I use a lot of them in the background. I use like Cloak of Shade on me all the time. I cast it at the beginning of the day. I can't remember how long it lasts. Probably 1 hour per level.
I think that makes sense.
But that however long it lasts, it counteracts a lot of the problems of being a zombie version to daylight and such. And same thing with Longstrider. Frequently cast that to make up for zombies' slow speed. So basically, he's magically augmenting himself to be like he was when he was alive. And then occasionally he'll pull something out like Entangle or something like that that will cause plants to grow. Or and I guess the last thing is what he's really good at is starting in episode, can't remember if it was 3 or 4, when he had the showdown. And basically had to intimidate and didn't do as good as he had hoped. I've started to pump ranks into intimidate because I think it is fun to be that character who makes the stance that, okay, I'm drawing the line right here. It is not going to be crossed. You're not going to move me. But that's been a row to hoe there.
Very
and of course
cool.
he's secretly and it's only hinted at in some of the episodes that we've come through, he's an educated person. Yeah, he has lost a lot of that since becoming a zombie. So that's it.
Okay, well, Blake didn't get to answer this one, so I think we should ask a question of Blake. Actually, one we didn't get to from last time that I would love to have answered. Also from Rain. Thank you, Rain. You said there was a skeleton encompassing the town of Ravenspine. What is it from, and how did it die?
So, I'm very glad that we got to ask this question, because I've been dying to not answer it.
What?
Because...
Hold on. That's not fair.
Asshole!
It is...
That escalated.
There is... What I will tell you is the in-world explanation is that supposedly there are, theories that it is a giant bird that died, and actually, if you guys had gone a little ways east, you would have come across Raven Skull, which is the sister town, which has a giant skull in it.
Okay, I'm laying bets right now. At some point, there's gonna be an evil necromancer that is going to animate the entire skeleton.
No.
We're going to fight the giant whatever it is.
Quit giving Blake ideas!
Midgard serpent or something.
I mean, certainly wouldn't be basing this on any sort of Thunderbird mythology of the Apache Nation in the area.
Oh.
What?
Cool.
But
Okay, now
yeah,
stuff
in
like
universe, some of the
Interesting.
explanations are it was just some megafauna that died out a long time ago and eroded away, but its bones were particularly hard, so it stayed around. The
A big
Apache,
bird.
yeah, the Apache in that area tell legend of a massive thunderbird that was slain by. It was actually tricked by Coyote, who imprisoned it in its own bones. And this is my explanation. This is not based on real Apache lore other than Coyote and the Thunderbirds, but
Well, now I want to go back.
Yeah. Oh
Those are some of the in-world explanations. As to what it actually is, who knows? Except me. I know exactly what it is and what's going to happen when a certain necromancer gets mad at you.
That's mean. That was a good question, though. I hadn't thought of that. Thank you, Rain.
Blake, do you want to pick one?
Yeah, I'm going to ask myself a question. No,
Hey, go for it.
Why?
this question is for Zach from Haz. Thank you, Haz.
Shit.
And
Thanks,
I
Haz.
really wanted to ask, I wanted to go over this because I know a good portion of this. But Haz asks, can you explain some of the mechanics of Moz's plan in town? What was he casting? What were the lanterns for?
Oh,
Right.
good question.
Diagram.
Is that a spoiler for next episode?
No?
No.
No,
That's in this episode.
That fight already
Episode
happened.
7.
Yep.
Yep.
310 to
Where
Yuma.
it goes, everything goes boom.
Oh my gosh.
Keith, you all caught up?
Keith didn't do all the listening homework.
Someone didn't do their homework.
I think I was going by the old episode order before we took the bank job out of the rotation there. It's okay. I have a perfect photographic memory. I'll remember everything. Go ahead, Joe.
So for Moz's plan, it involved a lot of rope, lanterns, and spells. I think a lot of this boiled down to Blake made a very detailed map of Perdition. It's huge. It's incredibly dense and something that I've rarely seen. I've never seen something on this scale in a tabletop game, and I wanted to take advantage of it. And I knew that there was an attack coming. It had been hinted multiple times, and the best place for Moz to be was up in the clock tower. But I knew that Moz himself couldn't take on the entire gang. So I needed to do a little prep just to be ready. The whole idea with the lanterns was Moz has a spell, which he's used a couple times. I believe it's called Pyrotechnics, which in Pathfinder, it has two different ways you can augment it, but they both start with a source of flame. So you have to target a source of flame in order to get the effects. The first is, I think, a smoke screen, which I've used a handful of times. But the other effect, which is the one I really was trying to use, was, I believe it's fireworks or something similar to that nature.
Fireworks.
But it is a huge, massive radius, stunning display, which is very good at disruption, we found. I went up in the tower so that I could position all of the lanterns at appropriate locations, which I put a lot of effort into this.
He built a 3D model.
Yeah, this is what I'm so excited about.
He had a CAD diagram.
3D model that he showed and was asking me,
Mr.
like,
Engineer.
where are these things in town? And then he sent me the picture, and I was like, holy shit, this is so cool.
Calculating the distances and the ranges for the spells.
It's less impressive that it was just a bunch of boxes that were spaced apart. There was probably a more efficient way of doing it, but it's what I'm familiar with. It's a program
absolutely.
that I know very
It
well.
was so impressive.
If you couldn't tell, both Zach and I are mechanical engineers, and we
Explains
are a
the
bit
pirate.
extra at times.
It's a terrible curse, really. But yeah, I made a model because I was very excited and I wanted to go out. But I really wanted to know essentially what distance the clock tower was from all of the primary entrances to town, all the main streets. So I spent a lot of time outside of the session. I measured the distances and I set up a series of lanterns and ropes. The ropes were there because in my inventory of spells, I didn't have a very good long-range way of igniting things outside of Fireball, which is kind of like trying to ignite a candle with dynamite, but that was my only option, was to throw fireballs because it has a lot of range at ropes that would then ignite the lanterns, which I could use to cast spells. It was very extra and it took a lot of time to set up, but I was very satisfied with the overall results.
I mean, considering you almost single-handedly held off 3 separate groups of people coming into town.
Yeah, it cracks me up that Jasper and Myra were wholly focused on keeping Carter from getting away. Bonesaw was off in La La Land trying to get his mask back, and Moz was holding off literally everybody else. I mean, I know there were some NPCs at work, but
doing actual work while the rest of us are just sitting there with our thumbs up our butts.
That was, I think, the largest scale combat I'd ever participated in, and that was very enjoyable. That was, I think, very well done by Blake.
Thank you.
So I think that was Haz for that question. So thank you, Haz. Let's see. I think I have a question for Keith. Let's see. I have something from Rain. How smart is Smokey? What are some of Smokey's tricks? I know we've brought these up a couple times, but how many tricks does Smokey know?
Smokey knows about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 8 or 10 tricks. Most of them are well, I've spent a lot of time developing Smokey, and Smokey is not just a horse, it's like the ranger's companion animal, so they're built as a character, and they advance as you advance. So Smokey, every time we level up, I have to also check Smokey to make sure Smokey gets stuff. But besides like the ordinary things like attack, defend, come, go, that sort of thing, heal, Smokey can deliver things. I can tell Smokey to take something to somebody else. Smokey knows all the party names. There's a trick called Speak, where you can teach your pet like 2 very specific questions that you can ask and get an answer from. And they can also answer like yes/no questions and things like this. So Smokey can paw the ground like once for yes, twice for no, that sort of thing. But Smokey also knows everybody's name and has a pantomime to tell me who she is talking about. I think for like Bonesaw, it's rearing up to be very tall. For Moz, it's crouching down to be very small. That sort of thing.
Oh, that's delightful.
But as for how intelligent Smokey is, Smokey really only has horse intelligence of 2, but Smokey has a wisdom of 12, which I think is better than some of the party members.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that beats me out.
Yes.
Holy
crap. She's got a lot of horse sense.
Wow.
Okay, I have to ask, what is Bonesaw's wisdom? We need to determine right now whether Smokey is wiser than Bonesaw.
Oh. My God.
I'm pulling up my character sheet.
I know that...
Are we talking about Bonesaw's base wisdom or Bonesaw's wisdom? Because, as I said, when he's in combat, he takes some minuses to some key stats.
We're talking like core Bonesaw.
Core Bonesaw. Okay.
Core bones.
I'm a little nervous, I'm not going to lie.
You could also say bare bones.
Wisdom of 13.
Oh.
Are you smarter than a horse?
It counts.
Wow. That is...
And after
Shockingly,
raging...
I know everyone's going to be shocked by this. Aside from charisma, that's my lowest stat.
Wow.
Okay.
like how everyone's just like...
Bones is marginally wiser
Everybody
than a horse.
right now is checking their wisdom stat.
I got it.
I was gonna say, because I don't think mine's very high either.
Do you want to pick another question, Keith?
Yeah, okay, I got a question right back at you, Zach. I'm going to lob one right back at you.
Okay.
This comes from Steve McDykel, or Sleeve McDykel. Sorry about that, Sleeve.
Great name.
Between Boomstick and Moz, I'm sensing a theme. Do you always play characters with affinity for explosives?
No. For those of you who don't know, Boomstick was the deranged monkey that I played in the one-off, The Bank Job. I had a lot of fun with it, but it's, I never made that connection before. I've played quite a few characters in the past, but Moz and Boomstick are, I guess, just a recent development. I mean, I've played a barbarian in the past. Most of the characters I play are martial or like fighter types. So I played a fighter in Echo Knight for about a year or so. I played a monk, a rogue. One of the main things I wanted to do with Moz was I wanted to do something that wasn't melee based. So that's kind of where I went with Moz.
Interesting.
And Boomstick,
so they're kind of the outliers.
Yeah, no, they're me trying to mix things up, which I'm having a blast, pun intended. But Boomstick, I think a lot of that inspiration was just. We were supposed to be doing a bank job, right? And you need to have the people who are like the lock pickers or like the very suave ones. Yeah, I felt like a demolitions expert just fit with the vibe. And I don't really know how I ended up on an elderly monkey who had a box of dynamite, but I had a lot of fun with it, and that's what we're here for. So I really like Moz. I can kind of track like how he developed as a character and why I made certain shit. Boomstick was just spontaneous. I think I made him in like 10 minutes. But
there's a lot of freedom that comes in a one shot.
Yeah.
This is something crazy that happened. Okay, I'll ask a question for Corinne. This one is from Brother Keith. Actually, no, sorry. That one was kind of already answered. The question for Brother Keith was, what are all of Myra's special shots? Are those from her class? I think we went into that.
Yeah.
I'll ask a different one from Highland. What was Myra's plan for fixing things with Carter? It sounded like she had something in the works. What did they talk about in secret?
So, as I was acting out the scene, I had no idea what the plan was going to be. I just thought it was a cool moment with a bunch of cool lines, and it was going to build up to a nice cliffhanger, and it did. And then Carter's gang attacked the town, and then he got taken, and then every option was blown out the window. But I think what I had in mind was that what I was trying to do, and what she did in the episodes, was that she was going to ask around to find more information about the people running the railroads, and to use dirt to try to help her influence them to shift the railroad out of the way of West Glen's territory. And so what I kind of thought was that I wanted to go into some sort of library and find maps of properties and try to convince them that there was a better way to go as opposed to through West Glen's territory. So that was kind of the vague idea I had in my head. She was going to use both a little bit of blackmail and also a little bit of a honeypot to try to get them to be more likely to go elsewhere. However that turns out, I guess we'll see. But that was kind of her plan. And she wanted Carter to help her out with it, and in exchange let Carter go. But then Carter's gang attacked, and so that was no longer an option. But she's still looking for a way to get her memory back, for sure. Okay. I get to choose a question. I have a very important question for Gail from Haz. Thank you, Haz. Who does the audio, and how did you learn? How much material gets cut?
Oh. So I do the audio, and I am, for the most part, self-taught. I had a friend who kind of situated me and taught me a couple of basics, but from there, it was mostly just banging my head against a wall. Blake and I played a campaign with that same friend. We did like 34 sessions or something, and I did audio for all of those. So that was my true cutting my teeth on raw audio, where I got to get out all of my egregious mistakes, hopefully. But I am improving all the time. As for how much material gets cut, we usually play a 3 or 4 hour session, and I would say about half. But you're not missing out on anything, because a lot of that is dead space. A lot of that is us taking our 10-minute break in the middle. Sometimes we digress to discuss nitty-gritty Pathfinder rules in the midst of combat, and it takes like 10 minutes to figure out a ruling on something. And it's things that slow down the action, that distract from the story.
Sometimes if we forget something and we need to be reminded.
Yeah, sometimes, more rarely, if there is like a jokey moment in the middle of a heavy scene, I might pull that out and like put it at the end after the credits, because I don't want to lose that fun moment. But if it completely breaks the tone of the scene, then I don't want to like undercut somebody's dramatic moment. So there's a little fuzziness there. But yeah, they get cut down to about half of their original content. So a 3-hour show is usually about an hour and a half, an hour 40 minutes, and a 4-hour show is usually like 2 hours 15. Yeah.
It's also to remove a lot of my fidgets, like dropping a coin like this, clacking on my mechanical keyboard like this.
How much noise I made until Gail was like, "Hey, can you like re-record these bits?"
Yeah,
and I'm clicking pens, I'm clicking my mouse, I'm like setting up cups, I'm slurping.
I'm coming for you.
Yeah. Gail has a lot of nitpicks on everyone's audio individually.
We're just so noisy.
Squeaky chairs.
No one knows us better than Gail.
All of your free time in a week picking through hours of audio, and every 5 minutes you had to hear or clack, 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 tap, tap, to tap, click, thunk, thunk, thunk. And you're just like, oh my God.
Needless to say, the final product is the best bits from the session. So thank you, Gail, for your sacrifice.
Yes, 100%.
Yes, thank you.
The way I think of it is I've developed an ear, is the kind way to put it. And I'm sure to everyone else, their attention doesn't immediately jump to those things. Hopefully, goodness. The audio quality does improve vastly over the course of the show as we get like better microphones and figure things out. So if you're hoping for better quality, we do get better.
Yes.
Anywho, I am going to ask a question. I think I'm going to do another one from Blake. Do you have any advice from Brother Keith Thank you, Brother Keith. Sorry, I'll start off. Do you have any advice for planning a sandbox style campaign?
Good question.
God, asking a question about that.
Maybe define a sandbox style campaign first.
Yeah, so sandbox campaign is what I'm going for with this, in that I am prepping a lot of I am prepping threads, and the idea is, while there is a larger plot of stuff that might be going on in the background, most of the quests that you pick up are, just, hey, I want to walk into this person's place and, oh yeah, I have a problem. Can you go deliver this thing for me? And whoopsie daisy, turns out that there's a devil there. That's more what the sandbox is, rather than having a specific storyline and linear, like, okay, this is mission after mission after mission after mission. It's more of an exploration and discovery thing. As far as advice to plan, it would, I'm going to break right here for just a second. No, I don't. Do you hear stuff, Gail?
No, I'm sorry. I just realized I have Roll20 open to look at my character sheet.
Oh,
I just sent him a message asking if he had music playing in his background. I was like, how am I going to get that out later? I'm so sorry. Please continue.
as far as...
We talked about nitpicking the audio.
As far as planning a sandbox-style campaign, I think the biggest thing that I have is the biggest focus needs to be on the characters and the players that you're doing. And knowing what interests them, both the characters and the players, and setting up the little pieces that you know that they'll enjoy interacting with and letting them go for it. And you only ever have to set up the barest facade at once, and it's only when the characters actually look at a thing that you have to develop it out. Like, Perdition, I knew that there was going to be a lot of interaction there, and I knew that there would be people that you would be talking to, so it has a lot of fleshing out that I didn't do in places like Ravenspine, or in other places that you guys have yet to visit or see. Like, at this point when we recorded this, Albuquerque was just a name, and I knew a couple of the players there, and I hadn't developed anything out yet. You know, Flagstaff has nothing, Phoenix has nothing, but when I know the players are going to start looking there, that's when I can start putting stuff in and setting up threads, and whatever you all latch onto, that's the stuff that gets developed. You know, if you guys said, hey, we want to drag so-and-so out into the field with us, you know, we want to drag the sheriff with us, it would take some convincing to get her to leave, but she would be somebody that I would then develop out. So yeah, I guess that's the big thing, is don't do more work than you need to.
Very cool. Good advice.
Yeah. I am going to throw a question over at Keith.
Okie doke.
This one is also from Highland. How did you learn so many trail songs?
Okay. Well, I like music, but in particular, I really love folk music. I love a lot of the folk singers from the very popular movement in the 60s. The Smothers Brothers, various trios and quartets. But in general, they just stick in my head. They're really good for the type of thing we're doing here, because you're never going to get a copyright strike on Colorado Trail or Red River Valley. Or I think Boil That Cabbage Down came from the Smothers Brothers, but it's an old work song. It's an old railroad song, actually, I think. But I love to sing. I sing at home. I sing in groups. I sing when people tell me not to sing. And I like to play the guitar, but I'm really not very good at it. I know how to creatively strum chords, basically, and folk singing is really well adapted for that. So it's a kind of synergistic thing, but yeah, they just stick in your head, and while you're actually playing, a lot of times when it's not your moment on stage, you're trying to think, okay, what bit can I work in here? I know that, you know, some music is going to come up because Moz needs to be distracted from a cursed gun or something like that. And so I was saying, okay, well, it's going to need to be a musical challenge. That means I need to come up with a song, think back. First thing comes to my head, Smothers Brothers singing Boil That Cabbage Down. Okay, here we go.
I will say I am very impressed at just how many songs you know and how quickly you can just spring into it.
Yeah, it is
turn of a
so
dime.
cool to hear.
Absolutely.
As someone who's playing a bard, I cannot get anywhere close to that.
Well,
It's
like I
always a
said,
treat.
you use that moment when you're not on stage to try and see, okay, what's coming up? Okay, I'm not being called on here, so I have a moment to think without distraction. But yeah, that's the secret. The secret is to do your thinking when you're not on stage. Related to that, I used to do Renaissance Fair a lot, and I had a friend who played the king, and I was just some lowly peasant. And our singing group or our dancing group would always be brought in front of the king when we did a little performance and something like that. And he would always, just as we were about to leave, he would call me out by name, say, "Oh, master, tell us a story, sing us a song." And there is nothing that clears your mind of all things. And somebody say, "Hey, tell us a joke." And he knew that was going to happen.
Oh, that's funny.
Wow.
Before we get to the next question, I do want to make special mention of that cursed gun. Like, I knew that Carter had been carrying a cursed gun and that Avery had taken it and that it was going to be like a point of tension. Like, I had that planned as something that you guys would have to deal with. It was making Avery not doing well overall. But the fact that it was such a fucking lodestone to all of you.
We almost killed each other.
After Moz grabs it, after Bonesaw grabs it, and after, like, this is after Avery has drawn it on all of you. And
I'm still upset that you lied to me.
finally, I'm amazed that you managed.
It was such a cool gun. I wanted that so bad.
Yeah, I can actually... No, I can tell you guys. Basically, if you crit with it, it does a ton extra sonic damage in addition to its regular damage in like a cone.
Oh.
It was a very powerful gun, but it had a pretty gnarly ass curse on it that you had to kill with it. Otherwise, it started to weaken you overall. So...
Yeah. Well, we're getting close to time, so let's do just one more. Do you want to pick one, Keith?
Wow, that went quickly. Hold on just a second here. I'm gonna give a question back to Gail here, and it can also probably Zach, you can chime in. This is from Seru. How did Moz and Bonesaw meet? They started the campaign together.
Huh.
So I believe the canon that we worked up together was that Moz was playing his fiddle at the wedding of an ex-partner, and there was some animosity there. And that Bonesaw happened to be trying to do a show as entertainment for the same wedding. He was hawking his wares, and they ended up accidentally on purpose exploding some barrels. And a lot of people got hurt, and it was like a little bit of revenge on Moz's ex. But then Bonesaw sold cures to all of the people, so they were fine in the end, but it was like their first real caper together, and I think they just clicked in a fun way.
It's a good thing that you asked Gail, because I did not remember that. I do remember us discussing the wedding. I remember that was an event that we talked about us going to and exploding the barrels. I didn't remember that was when we had just met. But that works for me. I mean, this is a story that we're building together, and I can't remember. It has been, what, years since we had that conversation?
Yeah, it's been a couple of
about
years.
2 years.
Okay. Well, if that's the canon now. That's
Yeah, really
good question.
back.
Who is that from? That was from
Seru.
Seru. Good. Thank you, Sarah. That was. I learned something.
That's all we can hope for, is that we'll learn something from this. Well, thank you all so much for coming tonight. I hope you enjoyed hanging out with us. If you want to submit questions for us to answer, that is one of the perks of being on our Patreon. So feel free to join and ask those questions in our community Discord. Other than that, Dust and Blood is a Rolling Path production featuring Corinne Hill as Myra Sting, Blake Alfson as our GM, Zach Parker as Moz Copernicus Pryor, Keith Curtis as Jasper Graves, and myself, Gail Parker, as Bonesaw. Our theme song is Dust and Blood by Arne Parrott, and you can find transcripts, detailed sound credits, and more on our website at dustandbloodpod.com. I can just cut you out, Blake.
I know, that's why I enjoy doing it.
You can follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Dust and Blood Pod, or support us through our Patreon at Dust and Blood, where you can join our community Discord and get perks like later episodes of this behind-the-scenes discussion show, The Roundup. We are so grateful for the support of our fans, people like Barbara, Lego Queen BB, Rain, Saru, Sleeve McDykel, Haas, Hyland, Brother Keefe, and 50 Sloths of Grey. Dust and Blood releases monthly on the 1st. Please check out our content warnings in every episode description. And again, thank you so much for joining us on this wild, wild ride. Yay!
Adios, amoebas.
Shoot open to the early morning sun. I feel that aching, pounding, poking of a bullet in my lungs. Skinny ceiling, bones crunching. I feel that wretched ancient something drag me up to face that coward son of a gun. His face grows wide as he fumbles for his holster. I feel the lead pierce my shoulder, neck, and chest. I scream that I have died 100 times and lived 1,000 years, and I'll be damned if a boy like you's gonna be the best. Yes, I'll be damned if a